Jennifer Renner is suing her client, Danny Velasquez, for dance class fees.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2086, Renner versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Renner, you run a dance studio.
I do.
How long have you had it?
30 years.
And what age children do you teach?
We have a Mommy and Me class, which starts at 18 months, and our oldest student is 19 years old.
And Miss Velasquez has a daughter. And she was at your school during what period of time?
She started in June of 2020, and she quit in June of this year.
Your lawsuit is simple. You claim that Miss Velasquez owes you money for her daughter's dance lessons.
Yes.
The defendant actually disavows owing you any money. She said that you actually behaved in a mean-spirited way in not allowing her daughter to finish her recital. So I'm trying to think back to my days when I was 6 and 7. And if I remember correctly, the name of the school that I went to, and I know that this is not something that everybody is breathless to hear about, but I haven't had one of these cases. And I was thinking back to Miss Nottage, who had a dancing school in her home on Parkside Avenue in Brooklyn. And I do remember that you took classes I took toe, tap, ballet, and acrobatics, which was not my strong suit. Any of them, none of them were my strong suit. Father always said that I should sue the city because they built the sidewalk too close to my behind because my legs are short. So being a ballerina was really not physically possible for me, but in my mind, I thought I was a ballerina. Anyway, as do most little girls, I assume. So you worked during the year, and at the end of the year of your dance class, I remember you gave a recital. Everybody got all excited and dressed for the recital. I assume that's what happens in your class. Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Did you have a contract with Miss Velasquez?
I have a registration form which acknowledges receipt of studio policies.
Well, policies is not a contract, but I'll take a look at it anyway. The question is, do you have a signed contract with her?
No.
Okay. May I take a look at that? According to these policies, which are not a written contract because she has not signed this document in particular, you say you acknowledge receipt of it. What it mostly is to tell them what the instructions are and give you a release of liability. It does indicate here that full tuition is due on the first class of each month. And how much was the tuition for Miss Velasquez's daughter?
From January through June, it was $170 a month. And then from September through December, it was $165 a month.
Okay, so around $170 a month. And I assume she was current on her tuition in 2020. And in 2020, did Miss Velasquez make her payments on the first of each month?
Well, I can't say exactly on the first, but yes, it was always current, which is why.
That's not what I asked you. Was it made pursuant to your policies here on the first of each month?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically.
What about in 2021? Were her payments made on the first of each month?
No.
When did she stop making payments in 2021 on the first of each month?
Well, I have emailed spreadsheets here, and so starting in December, she asked me if she could make small payments, increments throughout the month because she was a single mother and wasn't able to make the full payment on the first.
So you said yes, that she could make payments incrementally. And do you have that same arrangement with some other parents?
I do.
How many other parents do you have that arrangement with?
Well, anybody who asks in...
How many? You run the school.
5.
How many students do you have?
5.
Okay. So you have that arrangement with this mother plus 5? And that is inconsistent with your policies.
Yes.
That would be a yes. Now, tell me what happened, Miss Velasquez, that caused you to fall behind in your payments. You acknowledge you fell behind in your payments.
Yes, I do.
When did you fall behind in your payments?
I asked Ms. Renner if I could start making payments in September of 2021, which I have written as well, if you would like to see that. And in October, I didn't pay anything because my father passed away. And I explained that to her, and then I made up for it in November through payments, and I just continued to pay as I could with being a single mom.
Well, that's not a reason to not pay her, being a single mom, as you could. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're doing the best you can. You're trying to give your little girl, how old is she?
9.
9. trying to give her the best possible experience. It's all wonderful, but this is her business. And if you owe her money, then you owe her money. Since the policies are honored and sometimes not, there was one part of your policy, even though that this is the contract that I actually find ridiculous, because in your lawsuit, you claim you're owed $946 and $7,169.76 interest. That's not happening. And it's not happening. You gave me an easy out because you really don't enforce your own policies.
I try to be kind to people who
and I
need
try
help.
to be kind too. Being kind is not suing somebody for $900 and suing them for $9,000. That's not being kind, because there's no question that you agree that you owe her some money.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's an unconscionable. Even if there was a contract for it, I would probably find it an unconscionable piece for somebody who owes you less than $1,000 and you want $7,200 because it includes interest. I find that ridiculous. How many students were in Miss Velasquez's class?
Approximately 18.
When you say approximately 18, the number varied based on what?
Well, my memory, it was either 18 or 19 children. I don't remember how many. That's a very large class.
Are you the sole teacher?
Well, I do the ballet, and I have a teacher who teaches the jazz class.
Your daughter takes ballet or jazz or both?
Yeah.
Your daughter stopped going to school when?
May 17th.
Tell me the circumstances.
That was when I got a ledger from the studio that said that I owed $965. And my math was thinking I was closer to like $360. So I kept messaging and asking where the confusion was. And I didn't get a response until May 27th.
That said what?
That said I owed $1,300. And this was from Miss Jenny.
And that was for late fees? What was it for?
The dance team and the costumes for the recital that was coming up.
Okay. Well, do you have a ledger? And I'd like to see your ledger. So far, I have, according to you, what you owe, because you did a breakdown of what you owe. It is your claim that you owe $846, correct?
Yep.
And she says you owe $946. That's without the interest and the late fees.
Yeah.
So you are actually, based upon raw numbers, $100 apart.
I have an email from her stating that she owes $947.
I'd like to see it, please.
And later today,
Do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
So you stay with your mom?
Yeah, that's my primary residence. Like, it's maybe two days out of a week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile now?
Jennifer Renner claims her client, Danny Velasquez, owes for dance class fees.
Okay, so in this email, you acknowledge owing $586 and then $360 for team. What is team?
They did like competition teams that I allowed my daughter to be on. Before I let her audition, I made sure that Jenny was okay with my payments and I sent it all in.
No, I'm just reading the email, which seems to acknowledge that you owed her $947.
Yeah, so the team portion was $361, which is what I thought was owed.
No, you said team, and your regular tuition said that I owed $1,301 when I only owed $586. So $586 and $361 and $947.
You're correct. I just couldn't get any accurate numbers.
I'm taking your numbers that you acknowledge.
Right. First she said it was $1,647 I owed, then she said $1,400.
Right now I have, she says amount owed $946. You said it was $947. So let's say it's $947. And that's without late fees and without interest. So you would consider that a fair number.
Yeah.
And Ms. Rayner, you would consider that a fair number?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair. I just wish that my daughter would have been able to dance.
Money was due to me, and she was not paying.
I had to go in and be the one that broke her heart.
She argued with every statement we sent her.
We've already found a new studio, and it's amazing.
Pay your bills.
It's a big blessing in disguise that my daughter's not with Jenny anymore.
I'm sure you were a great dancer back in your day. Maybe ballet now isn't for you, but I'm sure you were the cutest one in the class. But I do think it was unconscionable for the owner of the dance studio to agree that the mother only owed around $900, and she wanted to have this court pay her almost $9,000 in late fees and interest. I mean, I think it's just unconscionable.
It was a good shot. You know, usually when you do a contract, a formal contract, contracts usually say if any part of this contract is found to be either unconscionable or illegal, the remainder of the contract remains in full force and effect. Usually you have something that says that. Well, this was just an acceptance of the school policy, but the school policy clearly was flexible.
It was, and as soon as she said that, I was hoping that she would have drawn up for those 5 or 6 parents that were on a different payment plan. I would have hoped that she, as a business owner, would have drawn up something mimicking a contract with them to show what their agreement was.
Memorialize that agreement.
Because as you said, well, if you're flexible on this point and that point, why are you not flexible on the interest that you
exactly, which sounded unconscionable.
It did.
Anyway, I really, Sarah, remember those dance classes and crossing Parkside Avenue to go to Miss Nottage's studio. The thing that I remember most about it was the acrobatics class. I swear they had something strung up that looked like a torture chamber. It was strung up from the ceilings and you were put in a harness. You started from one end of the room, and when you got to the minute, she pulled you up on a pulley and you were supposed to do a somersault. And I remember I couldn't get off the ground. My little chubby legs were
flailing.
And I couldn't get my behind over the rest of my body.
Listen, I'm not a dancer either.
Then I started thinking about law school.
Yeah, I think that's a good career path.
Right.
Case 2088, Jenkins versus Barnes. All parties, please step forward.
Fenshia Jenkins is suing her former roommate, Victoria Barnes, for rent and a security deposit.
Miss Jenkins, you were a short-term roommate of the defendants.
Yes, ma'am.
She put an ad on the internet.
Yes, it was in a Facebook group. I was referred by my college. It was for subleasing, rentals, apartments, of that sort.
A room?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
I actually do.
I would love to take a look at it.
No problem.
What college do you go to?
University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Miss Barnes, you were pretty specific in this. It says it's average about $800 a month. Utilities included, unfurnished, looking for a female roommate, sublease, personal, bedroom and bathroom, pool, tennis, laundry site. Must be willing to complete a background check.
Yes.
Okay. And did you go to look at the room?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
It was the same day that I signed the sublease, which was, I'm so sorry.
It was February the 10th.
No, I moved in on February the 10th. That is incorrect. We signed our sublease on, I believe it was actually maybe January 22nd.
Does it have a date on it?
This only has the date for when I will be moving in and
May
moving
I
out.
please see it?
The date is on the signature page.
Okay. It's on the last page of that packet.
You don't have to help her prove her case.
I just want to make sure she got it right.
You don't have to help her prove her
Yes,
case.
ma'am.
Well, who crossed this out? It says subleasee is one of, first it said one, that's crossed out, and then it said 2 total tenants occupying the premises.
I did cross that out because it is 2 of us. And I accidentally wrote one of one, but it's 2 of us total. And that was crossed out on the date that I signed it.
Is that correct?
Yes, it was quite a few changes on there.
So it was agreed that there would only be the 2 of you occupying the premises.
Not completely correct.
That's what it says, that there would be 2 people
Yes, ma'am.
occupying the premises. Am I correct?
In the initial agreement, I made it clear that...
No clear. This says the sublessee's interest in the sublessee is one of 2 total tenants occupying the premises. That's what the lease says, which means there are only 2 people, according to this sublease, which is signed, who will be occupying the premises. That's all it says. I haven't finished the next page yet, but that's what the lease says. Not what you made clear, not what you might have said outside of this. This is what's binding.
Okay.
And this indicates that the subleasee, that's you,
Yes, ma'am.
does not need to obtain her permission.
Not at all.
Overnight guests, which would make sense that she doesn't need your permission to have overnight guests.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what your case is about. Now I've read this agreement. You moved in February 10th?
Yes, ma'am.
And started to have difficulty because Miss Barnes has a boyfriend. That would be you.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was there a lot.
No, that was not a problem.
Well, according to you, it was a problem when he had his own key.
Yes.
And he came, according to you, unannounced.
Yes, ma'am. Alone.
Well, it doesn't say that he has to be announced. I can understand it if he was occupying the residence with his own key and there all the time. That certainly would be in violation of the lease. Would you stand up for a second? Tell me your name, sir.
It's Sean White.
Are you and the defendant currently living together now?
No.
Have you ever lived together?
No.
Can you tell me why it would be that you would have a key to her premises?
Well, she is my fiance. We've been together almost.
Because she's your fiance?
Yeah.
When did she become your fiance?
Around a year ago.
And is there any reason why you're not living together?
Yes. In recent.
Yes. You're going to tell me.
Yes, ma'am. I'll tell you. In recent events, I just lost my father, and I'm trying to launch my trucking company and get that off the ground. So it's just wouldn't be the best thing right now.
How far is your residence from your fiance's?
About an hour and a half.
And her residence from your business?
I'm a truck driver, so I'm always mobile. But where I load at, she's usually close to it.
And that's when you stay at the house?
Yeah.
And how many times a week do you load your truck?
Close to her, maybe 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times a week?
Yeah.
So that means that you're spending either 2 or 3 nights a week at her house?
Yes.
Yes. And that's been going on for how long, sir?
Just this year.
So far, we're doing fine. You see, I don't yell unless someone provokes me.
Heard.
He seems like a very nice man, nothing that frightens me, right?
Thank you.
And he visits his mother on Sunday. The guy is a hero, perfect for you.
Thank you.
I don't know what you want from her.
Shia Jenkins claims her former roommate, Victoria Barnes, owes for rent and a security deposit.
Mr. White, do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
When you're going to stay over, do you bring up a bag or do you bring up a backpack? What do you bring up with you?
A bag and a backpack.
Do you have toiletries in her bathroom?
No, ma'am.
You carry that with you?
Yes.
Now, when you're on the road, if you stay over 2 or 3 days a week at Miss Barnes's house and you're on the road, how many days a week are you on the road and sleeping either in your truck or at a motel or at a truck stop?
Between 2 and 3 days. It's all depending on where I go.
So that brings us to maybe 5 days a week or 6 days a week. And where is your home?
Affirmation of 1 hour.
Is that where your father lives?
I'm sorry, but he's passed.
He passed?
Yes.
Okay, so the house that you're staying in is his house?
Yeah.
Anybody else live there?
My mother.
So that 1 day a week you stay with your mom?
It's usually probably a Sunday when I don't have anything to do.
Do you stay at your mother's house?
Yes, that's my primary residence. Like it's maybe two days out of the week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile now? If you see your mother on Sundays and you're on the road half the week and you're at the defendant's house half a week, you can tell me from today until the cows come home that your mother's house is your primary residence. But if you look at it objectively, put your hand down. If you look at it objectively, you're on the road part-time. When you're not on the road, 3 times as many days a week you stay at her house. 1 day you stay at your mother's house, and you tell me that that's been going on since the beginning of the year, which would be January or so of 2022. That's what you just told me, and that actually makes sense.
I beg to differ, though. Like, the time that I stay there, it might be 8 hours, and then I'm back on the road.
I don't care.
And it's like maybe 2 days out of the week.
Now you can sit down, Mr. White.
Wait.
Okay, I get the scenario, and not unusual, you were unhappy with this more frequent access than you were advised of.
May I add, I was not unhappy with how much he was there. It was only the fact that he had came in by himself and she hadn't let me know. I only had told her that that made me uncomfortable and I got kicked out for it.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Well, when you say got kicked out, I think you acknowledge that you gave her a 30-day notice to leave.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And other than this issue of house guests, were there any other issues that you had with her?
When the situation happened, she texted me and asked me where I was. I told her when I got home that we can have a conversation, and that's when an argument ensued, and multiple arguments happened after that.
Were they all about house guests.
Just about, yes, ma'am.
And at the beginning, they were all about Mr. White.
Right.
Okay. And your sublease agreement actually specifically says that only 2 people are living there.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. White has already made it crystal clear to me that he spends his time either on the road or at your house visiting his mom on Sunday. And that sort of makes this fuzzy. Okay. Anyway, it didn't work out. He seems like a very nice man, nothing that frightens me.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And he visits his mother on Sunday. The guy is a hero. Perfect for you.
Thank you.
So you moved out, you got another apartment, whatever it is. I don't know what you want from her.
I want the money that I gave her, period.
What money?
So she made me pay her security deposit.
No, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Security deposit.
Yes.
Fine. Did you get your security
No, ma'am.
deposit back?
Absolutely not.
How much was your security deposit?
$350.
Okay. Did you return her security deposit?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You have to return her security deposit.
Well, being as though she left the room damaged, I didn't feel like I needed to.
You have photographs of the damage?
I have stained carpets.
Just a second. Do you have photographs of the damage?
No, ma'am.
Good. $350. She gets her security deposit back.
Yes, ma'am.
What's next?
The remainder of the rent for the month that I moved out, which I moved out within.
Just a second.
Yes.
Did you pay her March's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You paid that the beginning of the month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how much did you pay her?
$630.
Incorrect.
Clearly paid you February's rent when she moved in.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she pay you March's rent?
So she gave me...
That's either a yes or a no. If she paid you March's rent, did you get 2 months' rent from the plaintiff?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And she moved out.
Can I explain why I don't feel like I'm entitled to give her the money back? Because the apartment complex, when we got into the initial argument and I was made aware of the slander and the allegations that she was portraying against Sean and myself, I was told that being as though I made it legal on paper that she has 30 days to the resident, that she would still access to my apartment for the remainder of the month of March until the 17th of April. And also Sean has seen her sending people to my house, her coming in and out of my house when I was at work, supposedly gathering her things, but my personal belongings came up missing.
Oh,
and she had access
Hold
to
on
it.
1 second. After March 17th, did you have any property in the apartment? Just be very careful what you say to me. After March 17th, you say you physically left the apartment. Did you have any property there? That's either a yes or a no.
May I confirm the date so I just don't
Yes.
give you false information? Okay, thank
Yes.
you. So the very last day that I was there was...
March 22nd.
Shh. You keep doing that. You keep doing that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the very last day that I was there was on, I believe, March 20th.
Oh, then you owe for the month of March. Then you get your security deposit back, $350. We're finished. Thank you very much.
But that's all just...
What? That's what she gets, her security deposit back. That's it. She gets her security back. Doesn't get rent, doesn't get moving costs, doesn't get damages. She gets her security deposit back. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Have a nice lunch.
This court is adjourned.
I really just thought that everything was fairly normal until just the conversation about me
A security deposit is the least of my concerns because I don't owe her rent.
expressing my discomfort with her boyfriend being in the house alone with me.
For her to even mention him harming her in any type of way is not only offensive, but it's disrespectful.
It wasn't like, he was my personal friend or I met him anywhere else. I met him through her, so I just didn't want to be home alone with him.
Honestly, it's outrageous. The implicate that I do anything to her is beyond me.
My safety does come first. I put me first. I gotta put me first.
I wish her nothing but the best away from me.
I thought that the fiance was absolutely charming.
I did too.
I thought he was such a nice guy.
Visits his mom on Sundays, has a job.
Hard-working, regular, stayed home while his dad was ill. Really a nice guy. But it was clear that he may say my primary residence is with his mother, but that's a visit on Sunday. When he can, he stays with his fiancée in the house. Clearly that was not part of the lease, but forget about that, Sarah. She's a tough broad.
Oh, a little bit of an attitude.
She had a little bit of an attitude. So I don't know.
It's always the nice guys that end up with
somebody with
women with the attitude.
He's got to watch his P's and Q's.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad they're happy, and I'm glad that they're together in their apartment, which is probably the way she would prefer it anyway.
Her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, for unpaid wages and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2103, Horn versus Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Horn, it is your allegation that the defendant, for whom you worked for a relatively short period of time, owes you some wages.
Yes, ma'am.
And in addition to owing you wages, you are suing her because you claim she defamed you by calling you a drug addict.
And she went to my board telling them that I did other acts.
Well, you can't tell me what she told anybody else because that's hearsay.
Could I give you the evidence?
No, you have to wait until I'm finished.
Okay.
That's your claim, that she owes you money for wages that you weren't compensated for and that she defamed you. The defendant says that you were an hourly employee. You were, in fact, paid for the hours that you worked. I assume that you are claiming that she paid for the hours that she worked. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that after you separated, parted company, you posted some very damaging and defamatory comments on the internet about her organization. So why don't we start with you, Ms. Stewart, and tell me what kind of an organization you have.
Your Honor, what we do is that we provide opportunities for people who have substance abuse, behavioral health, who may need education services such as getting their GED. We do skills training. We have employers that will staff them as well. And we also provide substance abuse and behavioral health services.
Is it a 501c3 organization?
No, we are a for-profit company as a corporation.
And how many employees do you have?
We currently have 7 employees.
And when did Ms. Horn come to work for you, and what was she hired to do?
She was hired as the clinical director, and she started on July 21st, 2022.
Okay, before I go to Ms. Horn, I want you to tell me what special training did you have, or is it required to have? You're the director of this?
I'm the VP of operations.
Okay. Is there any special training that you had?
Besides having the master's in accounting, I have my own accounting firm.
Okay, so you have a master's in accounting,
yes,
and you have your own firm.
Yes.
Okay, and you do operations
Yes.
for this. Okay, and Ms. Horn, I'd like you to tell me what your educational background. You were hired as the clinical director.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me about your educational background.
I've been in the field for 15 years. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I have my LPC, which is an independent licensure. And so when she wanted to do illegal practices...
No. You're getting ahead of yourself, Ms. Horn.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you answer an ad?
Yes, ma'am. I went for the interview, and when I showed up for the interview, she told me that I could not oversee the clinicians, BHTs, and case managers, and that I could not sign off on notes because I had an LPC. I got the board on the phone that day, and
You're getting far ahead of yourself, Ms. Horn, and I'm just telling you, who is this person?
My dad, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm just telling you that what you're doing is, by not just answering my questions, you're not serving your cause well.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Don't tell me what she told you she couldn't do. You started working for her on what date?
The date that I actually started working for her was July 27th, 2022.
And were you an hourly employee?
No, I was a salary employee. Could I show you?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sarah, would you bring up a July calendar for me? I want to see the days in July.
I have it.
Okay, so this was an offer, and it was a pretty nice job. Paid on a bi-weekly basis, $115,000 a year, with an increase the following year. The work offer was contingent upon a background check.
Yes, ma'am.
A drug test.
Yes, ma'am.
Participation in training, and any other safety measurements for staffing. So between July 21st and July 27th, when you started, was a background check completed?
It was completed.
That's all I wanted to know. Was completed. Was a drug test completed?
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
before she started. No.
Just a second. Between July 21st and July 27th was a drug test conducted.
Yes, ma'am.
It was conducted, but on the 28th, her drug test was done on the 28th of July, after she had started.
Okay, so you took it on the 28th.
Yes, ma'am.
I need from the 27th to August 3rd.
Yeah, the 27th was a Wednesday.
Yes.
August 3rd was the following Wednesday.
Okay, so she worked Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
And then the following
Monday and Tuesday.
The 3rd
No,
would
ma'am.
be that Wednesday.
5 days.
No, ma'am. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the last week. Her grand opening was the Thursday of that week that I quit. And what she is talking about, I talked about at the beginning before I took the drug test, and they said that it was no problem. I take medication that's prescribed by doctors, and I have proof that I take medication by doctors. and I'm not a drug addict.
Well, I don't want to get into what medication that you take that's prescribed by doctors. I would assume that we're not talking about blood pressure medication, and we're not talking about medication for migraines, and we're not talking about stuff to take care of rashes on your arm.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let's say you worked there for 6 days. How much were you paid?
I was paid $55.29 an hour, but I worked those 7 days.
How much were you paid in total?
So the last paycheck that they gave me, $909.58.
May I see it?
Yes, ma'am. And I want to send up, I think I have the credit card because she had owed me money. And here are the days that I worked.
What is
circled?
Do you have a paycheck?
She did not give me a paycheck. The first one was a paycheck. The others were direct.
I want to know how much she paid you in total. Let's have it.
So for just wages itself,
that's all I wanted.
I was paid.
You want to tell me, do you have records, Ms. Stewart, about how much the plaintiff was paid by your organization?
She received 2 checks. She was paid $1,903.38.
$1,903. And that was for?
When we did the drug test, she was gone for over 5 hours. Drug testing are supposed to be done before or after work hours. Then she returned back to the facility between 4:30 and 5 p.m. that day and said that she had an emergency, that her friend was in a hospital, and so she could not work anytime. Then after that, on the next pay period, Sherna wasn't.
She really only was with you for 1 week?
Yes.
On what date did you tell her that?
About the 28th, yeah.
On the 28th, did you tell her that on the 21st?
No.
I'm just asking you.
No, because what happened that day was it was a confused interview where I was about to walk out.
Okay. Well, I'm getting unconfused.
Sharna Horn is suing her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, for unpaid wages and defamation of character. Kimberly is countersuing for property damage and slander.
So she really only was with you for 1 week?
Correct. And then on the next pay period, because she was paid for those 3 days and the time that she took off, we put her on the hourly rate because she didn't work a solid 2 weeks. But at any rate, we paid her for the time and days she was there. And so we don't owe her any money. She was paid.
Well, you were actually paid almost $2,000 and you were there for 5 days.
What she said was a lie. I never took off time.
Just a sec, I said something. Don't say what she said was a lie. You were paid almost $2,000 and you worked for 5 days.
7 days.
Well, when you went to take your drug test, what time did you leave?
Well, the other person...
Just what time did you leave?
I did not leave from anything. I did it on my own before I started.
So is what you're telling me that the defendant was incorrect when she said that you were gone from the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have anything to support that she was gone for 4 hours?
Ma'am, she was gone for half the day because that's when she ran into my office and said, hey, there's some stuff that's going to show up. Will I be fired? Or am I going to have a job? So
when did you have that discussion with her?
That was on the 28th of July.
Did you ask her what substances?
Yes.
Did she tell you?
Yes.
Okay. From my information, Ms. Horn,
yes,
how much do you think, in addition to the $19.03 that you were paid, do you think you're owed?
10 hours, ma'am.
10 hours. Which 10 hours?
That's from the week of the second week, not the first week, because I never left. I actually stayed late the day before their grand opening because she ordered a sofa.
Are you charging her for those hours that you stayed late?
Yes, because that's work.
No. Okay. What else? Right now we're just playing with time.
I passed everything and I was told I would be fine.
Just a second. Who told you that? She?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she tell you you would be fine?
I went to her. I said, there's going to be a drug test. Here's the medications that I take.
On what date did you tell her that?
About the 28th, yeah.
On the 28th, did you tell her that on the 21st?
No.
I'm just asking you.
No, because what happened that day was it was a confused interview where I was about to walk out.
Okay. Well, I'm getting unconfused. So you went into her before she got the results of the test and asked her specifically, these are the medications that I take. This is what's going to show up. Is it going to be a problem?
This is common, Your Honor.
Is who?
This is common in my field. To take drug tests before all the field.
You're going to answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, if you knew that it might have been a problem, you did not tell that to her on the 21st of July or the 22nd or the 23rd or when you started, but not until either right before or right after you took the drug test. That's when you said you went into her office and said, these are the medications that I take. Is it going to be a problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Horn, actually, I'm glad you're here with your daughter.
May I talk to her for a minute?
No.
Okay.
You may not talk to
Could
her.
I show you a picture of the inside of the facility of what happened in that facility, please?
No. You left. And
Yes,
I
ma'am.
find that the records are so, actually, you don't have records, unless that's something that you want to show me. You wanted to show
do.
me something about your employment hours? You were paid almost $2,000 for the few days you worked there. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't work out. You hated it there, and she wasn't crazy about you.
Because I had to leave because I was going to be violating state law and federal law, which she's already done, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask you, and you've been doing what you're doing for 15 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what job you had that lasted more than 3 years.
I've moved
Tell me who you worked for in the last 15 years, more than 3 years.
I can't because I was in graduate school and then I went to
So you weren't,
PhD.
just a second, so you weren't in this field for 15 years, you were in school.
I've been seeing clients since 2007.
Privately.
No.
Well, what I asked you is, who did you work for in the last 15 years, more than 3 years?
University.
Is that where you went to school?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you went to school for how many years?
5 years.
Your father wants to have a word with you before I'm finishing up with this case. You want to have a conversation with her?
You're blowing it. You answer her question directly and don't go anywhere else.
Okay.
Was that helpful?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're leaving the salary that you think you're owed. You say that the defendant called you a drug addict and thereby limited your ability in your chosen field. So show me, tell me.
I would like to submit the board allegations because everything...
Just a second.
And may I provide the timeline for what happened?
What I want to know is, what is this?
That is a falsified document.
No, just say
submitted
it
to
is
my
a
board.
document.
To my board stating that I did things that I did not do. I highlighted the bottom.
To your board
Just a
or to
second.
the board?
Shh. Okay, so this says a complaint was filed against you with the Arizona Board of Behavioral Health. Complaint alleges that you may have committed an act of unprofessional practice. If this is somebody filed a complaint against you.
She lodged a false complaint.
Shh. No, somebody lodged a complaint against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't say who lodged a complaint against you. It says a complaint has been filed. You didn't file this document.
Yes, she did.
Excuse me?
It's her signature at the bottom.
The types of documentation that were filed was list of medications, harassing and threatening emails and text messages, and budget left in desk. I don't know what that means.
She said I had all of my possessions, but how did she only have my budget?
I'm telling you that this is what it says.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? The CEO filed this document, and you swore to the accuracy of this document. Well, this report says that you were complaining that the person who was doing intake had to have a master's level. Don't look at any papers. That's what you were complaining.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
your first complaint.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the person doing intake, and somebody said to you that the person who was doing intake was just taking basic information, and once the basic information was taken, they would be assigned to somebody else. But that's
Your
what
Honor,
it said.
She said that she wanted to get some substance use information. My state board gave me this paper that I'd like to submit.
Just a second. I don't care about your state board, actually. The question is, does she owe you any money? She doesn't owe you any money for salary. I've already determined that. I see what she was supposed to pay you. It's not that you were working there for days. You have hours that you think you want to be paid for. That's not happening. You were paid almost $2,000 in what I gather was a very acrimonious few days. I mean, you're talking about either 5 days or 7 days. You were compensated. Forget it. Do you have any security footage of her?
I do.
Put your hand down.
She said she had
Put your hand down.
You're going to see the video.
No.
Not the video. She stated in a document she had video of it.
I don't think you understand the court process.
Sharna Horn has accused her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, of defaming her. Kimberly claims Sharna caused property damage and slandered her business.
Okay, the only other thing that I have to determine is whether or not she called you a drug addict. Now, would you show me where she called you a drug addict.
It wasn't just the drug addict. It was the false documents that I
No. She's allowed to file a complaint against you,
But I
madam.
never had a police officer come to me, question me, or anything. So if I did it, they would have come to me.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is she is allowed to file a complaint against you.
Yes, ma'am.
They have a responsibility to look into the allegations of that complaint. Did they either sustain the allegations in this complaint? Well, this is just August, so I assume they haven't completed the investigation, or have they?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so they have not.
That's why I'm filing defamation, because this is doing it on purpose.
I'll let you have one more go at it. You say she's doing this on purpose.
Hold on.
Do you have...
Yes, I have my father, who's a witness from court one day.
What court?
Can I explain?
Don't speak.
We were in court because they tried to file an injunction for harassment, and the judge, my dad...
Just a second. Went to file an injunction against you for harassment?
Yes, ma'am. Right after I went to the police.
Just a second. And were you served with a document?
No, ma'am.
Well, then how did you end up in court?
I saw the document on my door, and unlike the defendant, I went to the court to take care of it. You can laugh all you want, but I took care of it.
You have to be served with it.
I'm actually finished. I asked one question, and you tell me that you have the answer to that question. We're going to repeat the question. Whitney's going to, and don't go off on this question. Just stick to what the question was. She said they did this thing. It's sort of either retaliation or on purpose or...
She said that's why I'm filing defamation, because she's doing it on purpose.
On purpose. Okay, and it was the on purpose, and you said you wanted your father to testify to that and on purpose. Now go. Stand up next to your daughter. You are limited to the following. You are limited to telling me proof that you have on behalf of your daughter that the defendant has filed these charges against her, not on purpose, because she absolutely did them on purpose, but I assume that you meant maliciously.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'll hear you.
Okay, I'm going to keep this in secret.
Maliciously. What evidence do you have that the defendant filed this complaint and swore to this complaint maliciously?
I have no proof, but...
Then you have no proof. Then you can sit down.
Right, but that's not the question she asked.
All I want to know is maliciously. Now you can sit down. Okay, now we're going to get to the last question that I have for you, and then we're done. Do you have anything in writing where she called you a drug addict?
Your Honor, in the complaint to my board.
Okay, we're done. We're done. So now we're on your case. Now we're on your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for property damage. What property?
I will show you the documentation to the counterclaim.
Just a second. Don't tell me that you have documentation. It's a shattered window. When was the window shattered?
The window was actually shattered on August and let me make sure I get you accurate dates. I'm sorry.
Did you witness it being shattered?
No, ma'am.
If you didn't witness it being shattered, what proof do you have that if... Put your hand down.
Yes, ma'am.
Put your hand down.
I don't have it up.
Oh, put it down. Very good. Better.
We don't have witness.
If you don't have witness, then you don't have proof.
Okay.
Any other property damage? Shattered window? Anything else?
It was a broke lock. The day that she was, can I say this?
No. I'm very easy.
No, I'm saying the day that she came out to and sent the police to our facility on a Saturday, the lock, I saw her leaving that day, and our lock was broken off of our gate.
All I want to know is, did anyone witness her either?
No.
Then the answer is no. Do you have any security footage of her?
I do.
Put your hand down.
She said she had.
Put your hand down.
You're going to see the video.
No.
Not the video. She stated in a document she had video of it.
Just a second.
Oh, gosh.
I don't think you understand the court process. So I'm not going to tell you. I've dismissed your case, and I'm getting very close to dismissing hers. I'm dismissing those parts of her complaint which allege property damage because she has no witnesses that you, in fact, committed property damage. There's no reason for you to continue looking up papers. Your case is dismissed. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. It's about
very clearly. Now, the last part of this case has to do with the defendant's allegation that you, in fact, defamed her organization. I'd like to see in writing what you have to prove to me that the plaintiff defamed your organization.
Yes,
I want you to... I didn't ask you for anything. Now it's her proof. Do you understand? What I'm telling you, Miss Horn, is your behavior is a little off. I'm telling you.
Because I was framed.
Just a sec. Your behavior is off. And I've told you why. I've given you specific reasons why. You had two parts of your complaint. One is for wages, which I dismissed, and the other one for calling you a drug addict, which you could not prove.
No.
You're not hearing me. I asked you for proof that she called you a drug addict. You didn't have it. Now, proof that she defamed your organization. May I have it, Kevin?
This is from her and her father. And
Just a second. Her father isn't a party to this action.
Can I speak to the counterclaim? Because I have proof from her.
Sure.
Her text. It's her text.
This is from him. I'm not interested in anything from him. Sue him if he said nasty things to you.
Your Honor, it's just not nasty things. This all came about because of everything that Sherna has done, and she doesn't realize is that.
Listen to me.
Yes.
None of this comes from her.
She's on it. Her name is on
I
there.
don't care whether her name is on it. None of this comes from her. They CC'd her.
This is proof.
Put everything away. Put all your papers away. I'm not coming back to you unless I, in fact, see that there's any validity towards our counterclaim. Then I'll come back to you. Right now, your claim is dismissed. Both counts of your claim is dismissed. I've dismissed her claims for shattered window and a broken lock. And these emails do not represent any form of defamation. If you have nothing else, your claim for defamation is dismissed. Do you have anything else? The answer is yes or no.
No, Your
No.
Honor.
We're done.
Easy.
Thank you. Bye.
you.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you. Our facility and myself have done nothing wrong.
I think I got flustered, which is fair.
We're doing everything according to the Arizona State Board and laws.
I actually thought that they paid her. She complained that she hadn't gotten her second paycheck. If you look at the documents say that they went right in and bookkeeping corrected that and sent her out the second paycheck. So that was nonsense. And there was absolutely zero proof that they called her a drug addict.
Except for in a valid document that they filed, which they have a right to do. It wasn't the type of slander we usually see where it's plastered on the internet or anything like that.
And certainly the defendant didn't present any proof other than some nasty emails back and forth by her father.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just being a supportive parent. Anyway, I hope she finds a job that...
Lucinda Noble is suing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, for rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters,
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Miss Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting,
Correct.
for how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
Was
over
being
a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children.
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021, to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022. So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time. And there was other times I paid her different amounts. But our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well.
So our agreement had changed.
Just a second.
Okay.
You have an app 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you spend on that app?
12,000 something. It's right in here on the list.
Take a look, because you're going to show it to me.
I paid total $10,411.
Okay, and she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent. And you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally, yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before. Then I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
I believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you the text?
I don't care where you show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So apologize. Okay, apologize. Sorry. On April 24th. So if you want, and then you can scroll down because she kind of keeps for a couple days.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them?
Mm-hmm.
How much child support do you receive?
$300.
$300 a what?
A month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Mm-hmm. Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something. I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job. And got it, $400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there?
Mm-hmm.
And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her.
No, I was gone for 3.5 weeks.
You were gone for almost a month.
Mm-hmm.
She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay, and your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month?
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister?
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, like the whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were missing.
Okay, which couches? Couches from where to where?
So the couch from the living room, it was a sectional, and the couch from the basement.
Living room and basement. What happened to those couches?
Oh, they were gone a long time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those two items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those two couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Were those two couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those two couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware.
Lucinda Noble claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
she owes you for rent.
The TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer, she took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds,
Just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds, and this was damages from her cat.
Well, this I can't see at all. Okay, so that I can't see at all. And if you're talking about nail holes, I'm not interested in nail holes where there were pictures, putty them up. I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
She says she doesn't remember. I have to rely on what you say to me because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's
Okay. If you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit.
Okay.
Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the incident
Yup is
report.
yes. You called the police, and the police came. And when the police came on, do we have the date?
26th
20
April.
The
Right.
police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with 2 sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was called in?
Well, they called me. Real quick.
Child Protective Services.
Right, they did call me. But first, I actually had the phone call from my sister, my witness, who's here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Aslett. I'm the
When-
older sister
when
from
did-
these 2. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called, Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda
Yes.
on April 26th.
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you
called.
recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was,
The daughter was the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
Okay, not the
lice
2-year-old.
Yeah. She supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me. I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay, and your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second, was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her
Yes,
boyfriend's house?
Yes.
Okay, and that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to, supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous? And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that.
Well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this
She made
justified?
the comment that
so she called
Tiffany
you.
has not been there.
Okay, you had to ask
My
her
words
why.
to her were, how do you know this when you're never there?
And she said?
I just know.
And gave you no more specifics?
No.
Okay, you want to tell me about that conversation?
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well.
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay, now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay, and you left your kids alone, correct?
With my sister.
With your sister? Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You've got to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time, too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their schoolwork.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce what I just said. You would have had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank you. I'm not finished.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up. What I want to know is you're her daughter.
Yes.
Your first name?
Anna Noble.
Anna, what do you do?
I work front desk at a hotel.
Graduate from high school?
No.
Why?
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble?
It was many things. I was a very wild teenager.
Until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children, who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proof.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. Had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that right?
He did treat it. He told me immediately.
So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All 3.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relatively current Child Protective proceedings, because that was in 2021, you were clearly drug tested by the Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services.
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my tests.
And at that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay, that's what this report says.
Right.
You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right
Do
away.
you have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me,
Right.
that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Thank
you.
I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history. Didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened 2019 or 2020, that's still recent history.
Okay.
So whoever called, it was worth, according to this caseworker, they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you. We're done.
My
This court is
property,
adjourned.
We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and it was like an oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I've just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
When people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS, current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's
for
basis
the claim.
itself. Yeah, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no. They're watching.
Yeah.
They're watching, and they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all of those kids, that they're not getting all the loving and nurturing that they should.
Hopefully, maybe after today, she turns it around.
Maybe.
Morgan Larson is suing defendant Chris Bumgardner for vandalism after his 16-year-old son damaged her car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2101, Lawson versus Bumgardner.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Larson, it is your claim that the defendant's son, I assume that's this young man over here, vandalized your car. And he vandalized your car by smashing in a side mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Which required you to be without a car for a day while they fixed it. So you want his father, who was actually present at the time, to pay for the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
From what I gather, this happened on Father's Day, which was June 19th of this year, and you were going over to visit your father.
Yes.
For Father's Day. Stand up. What I gather from your complaint, was he sleeping?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Some sort of an altercation happened, which you'll tell me about in a moment. His father was called.
Yes, ma'am.
His father came. This kerfuffle continued, and when they were on their way out, this young man, whose name is?
Caden Bumgardner.
Caden.
Caden.
Caden smashed in your passenger mirror, and his father says, well, he actually saw him do that, but it was just pushing in the window, the mirror, and really all you had to do was pull it out, and it would have been fine.
Right.
That's your defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's start out when you arrived at your father's house. What time?
I arrived at my father's about, I would say, about 11:15.
Okay. What happened?
And it woke up Caden in the process. Caden got upset.
What did he say? How did you know he was upset?
He started screaming and pretty much saying, why the heck are you coming in here, waking everybody up? You have no right to.
Okay.
And then after that, Caden got up and started yelling, started punching the walls, screaming. My father went in there, and then his father, Chris, ended up getting called to come get Caden.
How far do you live from where Miss Larson's father lives?
About 7 miles away.
How old is your son?
He's 16.
Is he the oldest one of your children, in the middle?
The youngest.
Any other children at home other than him?
No, ma'am.
So he's the baby and he's home?
Yes.
Who sets the rules for him?
Well, I do.
Where did you think he was going?
No, I knew he was over they had something to do for Mother's Day, and then they had
That was Father's Day.
Well, I know, but I'm saying for the entire
Well, Mother's Day is in May, Father's Day is in June.
But they
usually don't have carryovers.
Planned, I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, he was over there.
Times have changed, life has changed. The only time you got to sleep outside your house when I was growing up was when you were outside in a pine box or a white dress. That was it. Those were your choices.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way you could leave your parents' house, right? I chose the dress. All right. Now, Caden, I'm going to come around to you because, you know, we're not talking about somebody losing 2 pints of blood or somebody losing a finger.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to wake up a teenager at 11:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually ready for dinner at 11:30 in the morning. But teenagers, you know, they're still growing, so they sleep late. But you were particularly annoyed when Miss Larson came in, right?
Yes.
Why?
Well, she did put it the right way, but she didn't put it the right way because.
But just to tell me why.
Well,
Don't look at her. Talk
She
to me.
didn't just wake her up. She came in there loud.
When she walked in, Caden, to a room in her father's house,
Mm-hmm.
what did she say? And tell me in what tone of voice she said it.
She said in a excited voice, but not like a mad voice, excited voice.
All right, and that got you mad.
No, that's not what got me mad. I didn't
What got
talk
you
to her.
mad?
By the time I could even finish my sentence, she's already busted in through the door and was in my face saying, you got something to say to me.
Just a second. You're not following me. She came in, and the first thing you said was she was talking too loud, and I want to know what you said to her.
I didn't say nothing to her.
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't even
Nothing.
look at her.
And then she left, so...
She cussed at me, but then she walked in there and she later
Who
said...
cussed at you?
Her. And then she later said
Well,
that
just
she
a
was
second.
talking-
I didn't get to that part, that she cussed at you. If you didn't say anything to her, what would she cuss at you?
Because she got a phone call from her saying that she wants me to get ran out of the house. That's how this all started.
Just a second. Oh, that's a different story. Okay, so what you're saying to me is you believe that she came over for the purpose of getting you out of the house.
I believe so, yes. Because that's what I got told.
Well, let us assume for a moment that's true. That would sound right to me. Get him out of the house. It's 11:30 in the morning on Father's Day. We want to have a party here. Get him out of the house. That would sound right on the money to moi. Right on the money. I mean, if that's what it was about. So I don't care if that's what it was about or not. Okay, your father comes. What happened when you got there, sir?
When I showed up, I went to the door, I knocked on it, they answered the door. It was pretty chaotic.
Look at me.
It was pretty chaotic.
Describe what chaotic is.
Okay, there was a bunch of yelling and screaming going on between Kate and my son and the plaintiff.
And Miss Larson.
Miss Larson, yes. And I told my son, I said, hey, you just need to step outside and let me figure out what's going on here, and I'll be right out. I tried to talk to Mark. Mark come out of the room.
Who's Mark?
That's the father. He was being very disrespectful, he said, and he said he wanted him to leave. I said, okay, that's no problem. I'll get him
Just
out
a
of here.
second. The father came out of the room and said, I want Caden to leave.
Right.
And did he leave?
When I come and got him, we left. Yes, we did.
And he walked out the front door.
Yes, he did.
And when he walked out the front door, he passed the plaintiff's car.
Yes, I believe so.
What do you mean? You wrote it in your answer, sir.
Yes, I
so
did.
the answer
Yes,
is
I did.
yes.
Yes.
And you saw him do what to the mirror? Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
And later today.
What do you think that I think of a person who says, okay, I'll go with you to this very, very sad time? Someone who I've been close and intimate with for months, but it's going to cost you $900.
Morgan Larson claims Chris Bumgardner's 16-year-old son, Caden, vandalized her car.
Now, you saw him do what to the mirror?
Push it in.
Okay, very good. Now, do you have photographs of the pushed-in mirror?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
Okay, one moment.
Just for my own curiosity, you knew that it was wrong for him to touch that mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if what you say is he just pushed the mirror in and all it had to do was be, you believe, to be clicked out?
I believe to be
just,
clicked out.
Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you say to him, don't touch somebody else's property? That's what this is all about.
Well, I
Your
believe I
temper.
did say that to him.
Just
I
a
said,
second.
Don't put your
Well,
hands.
then why didn't you pull out the mirror if that's all it was? If you say the only thing
because
wrong
she
with the
was
mirror is
coming
that it has to be pulled out, why didn't you do that? You didn't see him touch the mirror.
No, I did not.
You were there.
She was right behind us.
She didn't see it. You saw it. So my only question to you is, if you saw it and it was that minor thing, and you know what it is, either you can click the mirror in and then you pull it out. I'm always afraid to click it out that I'm going to break it.
Exactly.
You're not suggesting that anybody else touched this mirror to damage it. No. Okay, let's see. What did he use on the mirror, sir? What did he use to hit the mirror?
I believe it was his hand.
When you say you believe it was his hand, did you see what was in his hand?
He had nothing in his hand.
Did his hand get bloody?
No.
Okay, Kevin, would you turn these over to the defendant, please, and get from the plaintiff an estimate for the damage?
That's not what...
Well, they ripped it off there.
Well, yeah, clearly, because that's not what it looked like when I seen. Because when he walked by, he just simply... Okay. And I said, now, Caden, that's enough.
So you had a $500 deductible on your insurance?
Yes, I did.
And you had it fixed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you paid $442.74. Good. How long did it take them to fix it?
I would say about a month with the parts being on back order. And I
but you had the use of the car all that time?
No.
Oh, of course you did. Okay. Just want to see what you have for a car rental.
Your Honor, I don't understand this car rental part of it. I've been without a mirror before.
Sir, you're not allowed to drive without two mirrors.
Then there was one in the cab as well. That's two mirrors, isn't it?
I don't know what you're asking me, sir, because at some point you just have to take the car, and let's say it takes a day once you get the parts. At some point you have to take the car in and you're without a car for a day. Well, then you can either be without a car for a day or you can rent a car for a day. I'm not giving her a rental for a month. I'm not crazy. You know, there's a certain amount of inconvenience that one endures when somebody else vandalizes a piece of their property. And that's part of the punishment.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand. Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
I don't think you needed 15 days to fix this.
I didn't think so either.
Well, I certainly don't think so. But you're entitled to a day's car rent. So I put that down as $200, including everything, $642.74. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I didn't think that I needed to pay the whole $1,300 out of pocket.
I'm just glad someone finally held them accountable for what they did.
The mirror, I was walking past it and just hit it. Bam, you know what I mean?
I finally am getting reimbursed for the money I had to pay.
I knew what I was doing, and when I did it, I did regret it after I did it, you know what I mean?
I feel like some people need to control their children better.
It's also a sign of the times that this father did not own up to what he saw.
I will say he was on the more responsible side of parents than some that we've seen here. He said, I said, Caden, what are you doing? This is not how you act. This is not how you behave. So that I almost appreciated. But he didn't take it as far as you or I would have liked.
As far as knock at the door. I know this is hot. My son did something wrong. I'm going to pay for it.
Yep.
Whatever it is. I have to come into the 21st century kicking and screaming.
I'll try and help you as much as I can.
Thanks.
Case 2105, Davey versus Miller. All parties, please step forward.
Melissa Davey is suing her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Miller, for an unpaid loan.
Mr. Miller, I think I'm going to start with you today, just because I have to kind of shake it up for myself. Otherwise, I get stale. You and Miss Davey were sort of in a relationship for a brief period of time.
Yes, Judge.
Never lived together.
No.
There came a time when you wanted a new car. Not a new car, but a better car.
Yes.
You wanted a better car because you wanted to use that car as a driver for Uber.
Yes.
And you needed a down payment.
Yes.
And according to what I've read from Miss Davey, and what you seem to acknowledge in your answer, Miss Davey loaned you $1,200.
That is correct.
Things didn't work out, which happens. You paid her back $300.
Yes.
Did not pay her back $900.
Correct.
So that would make it easy, except that you have a defense.
Correct.
And I'm going to let you tell me and the rest of the world what that defense is and show the world what a prince of a guy you are.
I hope I can do that.
You're no longer together.
Correct.
You owe her $900.
No.
Well, you just acknowledged that you paid her $3 and you owed $9 because she gave you $12.
I owed $9.
I said at that point you owed $9. You're no longer together.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I misheard you then.
Okay. Well, I sympathize with that because I do a lot of mishearing myself. But what I said to you was, at the time you broke up, you owed her $900.
That is correct.
Now you're going to pick it up from there and tell me and the rest of the world what your defense is. Because I read it. I just want to hear it from you.
All right. At the time of our breakup, you are correct. I did owe Miss Davies $900 and had told her that I would continue to pay on the debt that was owed.
Okay. And what was the month and year of your breakup?
End of April, maybe?
End of May.
End of May?
May.
Okay. End of May, broke up, owing $900. And you said?
I tried to be cordial and have conversations periodically with Miss Davies, and they did not go well. And then Miss Davies had to put her...
No. You tried to have conversations with her with a view towards what?
Just to reassure her that I was going to pay her back the rest of the money.
Okay, so she would call you and say, where's my money?
No, I would send her a text and kind of chat, and then I would give her a quick call and say hello, and we would have just a little chat every now and then, just to remind her that, hey, I will pay you back the money.
That sounds so off, Mr. Miller. People don't usually call an ex-girlfriend who they owe $900 to and say, hey, by the way, I know I'm going to pay you back the money. I just need a little time. That usually comes from the other side contacting them and saying, I would like my money.
Typically, you are correct that most people, if you owe the money, you don't contact the person that is owed the money. I didn't want her to do that. I didn't want to have her come to me and be like, hey, where is my money?
Okay, so you break up the end of May. Did you give her any money in June?
I gave her one in April and one in July of $154.
So at the time that you broke up, you had only given her $150.
Correct.
Later on, she kept bothering you. You were reassuring her. And in July, you gave her another $150.
Correct.
Keep going. I still get $900. Where does it say she's forgiven your debt?
The very top one, I believe it says you won't have to pay for a thing.
No.
And that was...
No. Miller, this doesn't say she's forgiven your debt.
Melissa Davey claims her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Miller, owes for an unpaid loan.
I still get $900.
In July, she had to put her dog down. And
that was in mid-July?
I believe, yeah, about the...
July 11th.
So you'd already given her the other $150.
Yeah, and...
So she called you and said...
She sent me a message that said, hey, I'm going to do this. So I called, and she's like, hey, I'd really, really like you there.
I can't... The last couple of words you just sort of muttered, sir. I don't know why you sort of muttered them. She called you and said...
I would really love to have you there. I don't want to do this alone. I would really appreciate if you would come.
Okay. And did you think of that as a reasonable request?
Yes and no.
Okay. Did you agree to go?
After we talked...
No. I want you to tell me what she said and what you said.
She said that she would do anything.
No. I really want you to go. And this is on the phone. That's what you told me. This was on the phone.
Yes.
So you didn't say that she could see on the phone. She said, I'd really like you to go. And you said what?
I think that could be worked out.
Okay. I think that could be worked out.
Yes.
And then what's the next thing that was said, and by whom?
I believe she said that I would do anything to have you there. I don't want to do this alone.
Well, you told me that before. After she said, I really don't want to do this alone. I would really like you to be there with me.
And I said...
And you said, that could be... What did he say?
He said, okay, I think that could be worked out.
I think that could be worked out. Okay, so that's what you said. And then who said something after that?
She said that she would do
She already said she would do anything?
Yeah, she would even relieve my debt.
She said that, or did you?
She said that.
She said it?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what his answer was here. Okay. And so then you said to her, fine, I'll go with you. And you went with her, and you spent 3-4 hours there while the unfortunate business of an end of life for a beloved pet takes place. And prince that you are, you relieved yourself of the $900 that you owed her.
Yes.
Just for my own information, how long did you and Miss Davy date or have a relationship? A month, 2 months, 3 months?
4 months.
4 months. Did you get close?
Tried.
Both of you, or just she?
Both.
So you tried to make it a warm, close, intimate relationship.
As best we could, yes.
And when you needed some help, she offered to help you.
Correct.
What do you think that I think of a person who understands the word close, warm, affectionate? What do you think that I think of a person who says, okay, I'll go with you to this very, very sad time, someone who I've been close and intimate with for months, so I'm going to spend a couple of hours in the afternoon with you at this very tough time, but it's going to cost you $900, which is in effect exactly what you said, but it's going to cost you $900. Let us assume that I believe you, a reasonable ex-boyfriend who wanted to be, as you said, I didn't want her to have to come and chase me. I wanted to assure her. So a reasonable ex-boyfriend would say, sure, I'll keep you company.
In theory, yes. There were circumstances when Miss Davies and I broke up that were not the best for either of us. And it wasn't a cordial breakup. It was very rocky. At the time when she called and asked me to come, I didn't want to speak to her at all.
I would have respected that, sir. You say, this was very rocky, it was nasty, we don't really like each other anymore, or I don't like you anymore. I don't know how she feels about you, and it's really not something that I want to do. I don't want to be involved with that. I could actually understand that, if it was acrimonious, as you say. What I can't understand is somebody saying, I'll go with you, but it's going to cost you $900. That's what I don't understand.
Well, she brought that up. She was the one that stated that she would relieve the debt. And I was like, okay, whatever. So
okay, Miss Davy, now it's up to you. Now I have been grilling Mr. Miller. So I have only one question to you. Do you remember the conversation when you discussed with him going with you to the vet?
Yes, I have it in text.
I'd like to see it.
Judge,
Speak not.
Okay.
Unless you have the text messages.
This is the date I called to make the vet appointment.
Sarah, can you tell me what dates these are?
Sure. If you go out, these are all Saturday, July 9th, and if you pull over, you can see the time.
Well, I'm looking at all these, and I don't see anything about her saying to you, if you come with me, I'll forgive your debt. So if you have one of those, I'll take a look at it.
The very top one. That was after a phone conversation with Miss Davies?
Just a second. Where does it say she's forgiven your debt?
The very top one, I believe it says you won't have to pay for a thing.
No.
And that was...
No. Miller. You know what I'm talking about, sir. She tells you to keep your gas receipts. So if you're coming to help her, it's not going to cost you anything out of pocket. This doesn't say she's forgiven your debt. You have family, you have siblings, parents, anything?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they're going to be disappointed in you, Mr. Miller, because it's not princely activity. It was clear to me from reading the plaintiff's notes to you that at least it appeared that she was struggling more with the end of your relationship than you were. That's just what it appears. And I'm a pretty good judge of that. And you sound like an intelligent man, soulless, but yet intelligent. So if you have any emotion whatsoever, you can look at this and say, this is a lady who's sort of struggling. Let me see how I can take advantage of that. I owe her $900. And I'm going to figure out that if I do this for her and it's really important, I shouldn't have to pay her back the $900. Unprincely, Mr. Miller. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
People just sometimes don't agree.
It was very clear cut.
At the time, I was very upset with her.
I think he tried his best to just keep things cordial.
Move on and move forward.
Another wonderful relationship that's hopefully will not end up in court.
It intrigues me how men can make the jump from keep your gas receipts to you don't have to pay me your $900 debt. We read the messages and we were unclear as to what debt forgiveness in the messages. We didn't see it. He handed us the exact same text that we had read on her phone. He said, yeah, that's what that means.
I think he knew what it meant, because if you checked out his smirk when he handed me just that one piece of paper, he knew that when he said, keep your gas receipts, I don't want it to cost you anything to come with her to the vet, having nothing to do.
I hope this video resonated with you and left you inspired. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share.